Saturday Social, brought to you by EA Sports FC with PlayStation 5.
How many Champions League... is it true Arsenal have ever won the Champions League?
Do you know what, right?
That tees it up nicely.
Is it true, right, that every Man City fan used to boo the Champions League anthem when it came on? It's not important. We don't want to win it, right? It's not important. Now, all of a sudden, they keep mentioning the Champions League all the time.
Anyway.
Right?
Perfect.
Do you still boo it, do you? You still boo the anthem?
We haven't even started the debate yet. We haven't even started the section yet.
The viewers need an explanation. In case you haven't noticed, we are playing true or false. The reason being, let's give you a bit of context, Joe. We felt, chatting this week, there was a lot of huge talking points in the world of football. So instead of honing in on one, we wanted to discuss all of them, or as many as possible. We thought true or false would be the metric to do so.
Yeah, absolutely. Loads of talking points. The first one, I think, we have to mention VAR, don't we? We don't want to mention VAR, but we have to mention VAR after yet another shambles last week at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. So the first statement is very simple. True or false, VAR can be a success. Ooh, disagreement straight off the back. Do you think never?
Yeah, for me, my understanding of football is end-to-end. You pay your ticket admission to go and watch beautiful football. The moment the ecstasy of football, seeing a last-minute winner, has been stripped from us unfairly because of VAR. Has it been applied well in the Champions League, the World Cup? Of course it has, in part. And some of the offside calls in the World Cup were great. Goal line technology is fantastic. In the Premier League, we are losing the product of what the Premier League is all about for some referees who are massively unaccountable to ruin the sport that I love. It will never work in this country, in my opinion.
Never?
No, the way it's currently applied.
Okay.
Maybe that's to be an automated system where it's way quicker, but at the moment it's not working.
You disagree? Because you've gone
No, I think it can work. I think they just got to get their act together. You know what I mean? I think now when you watch a game on Sky, there's so many TV angles, you've got to have VAR. You know what I mean? We'll see a replay and we'll see, like last week, that a goal is clearly onside, right? It was just applied in the wrong way. I personally wouldn't have referees at Stockley Park. I'd just have some almost like nerds. That's all they do. You know what I mean? All they concentrate on is getting that thing right. You know what I mean? And
you mean specialists?
Specialists, yeah. But you know, like people who are just like, I shouldn't have said nerds. Sorry, apologise. Right, but people who are just focused on that.
Yeah.
Just focused upon that. But I do think. They do it in every other sport. They have it in cricket, it works well. They have it in tennis.
It's not cricket.
Right?
Not cricket.
Yeah, but we're being a bit
rugby.
too snobbish when we say it's too...
It's not snobbish.
We're in
Goal line technology
it's the 21st century now.
It's applied in the right way. Football is end-to-end. It's about speed. It's about the rhythm of the game. And what happened to Diaz was an absolute catastrophe.
No, but that goal, the goal should have stood. It was just that, you know, the VAR... The VAR wasn't wrong. Yeah. It was just the people that were operating that were wrong. But by the way, you know, I think that game should be replayed as well.
Is that because you're an Arsenal fan? Classic. Shout out to all the specialists out there, by the way, that do a good job.
Yeah, sorry, specialists.
Next up, I'm going to talk Man United because, of course, losing to Crystal Palace at home and losing to Galatasaray at home. A lot of people very vocal about Manchester United this week. So we're saying true or false, Man United will turn their season around. What do we think, guys? OK, disagree.
Robbie,
again.
I love it.
Go on, Robbie. True.
They can't get any worse than what they are at the moment. They've got to. I mean, they have to. I mean, I think they're rock bottom at the moment. I think it's got to improve. You know what I mean? I think they have had a lot of players that have been not fit.
Yeah.
So when some of those players get back, I do think players like Mount will get better. So I'm not saying that they're going to have a great season by the looks of it, but they will get better than what they are at the moment.
Boost, I've seen you quite vocal about Erik ten Hag as well on the club recently. What are your thoughts there?
I think he's done OK. I think people last season were raving about him. Of course, winning the League Cup was big on some level to get success into Manchester United with the new project, of course. But losing the cup final to City in the way they did, they really capitulated. The way they've lost their biggest ever Premier League game to Liverpool last season, 4-0 to Brentford. It's not a basket full of roses at Man United. They got one of the most expensive, baggy squads in world football. I think a lot of them drop their heads. They don't play for the badge. I don't care. I'm a City fan. But if I was a United fan, I'd be really gutted with even Casemiro getting, 3 red cards since he's joined. Anthony's not performing. Sancho. There's so many players there that are underperforming and they're expensive. I don't think you can turn it around this season. I think the season's almost over.
You don't think Ten Hag can turn it around this season?
Well, it depends what turning it around around this.
Yeah, can he scrape top 4? That side should be trying to win the Premier League with the amount of money in the squad. You know, Guardiola took 1 year, then he won the Premier League. Centurions.
Yeah, but is it realistic to expect, you know, Ten Hag to win the Premier League against this Manchester City side, who are maybe the greatest side we've ever seen in the Premier League? Guardiola, when he arrived, wasn't competing against the greatest side.
It's a great Chelsea side in Conte, you know, great Liverpool side.
Yeah, it was a time like Leicester now, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
It's my understanding of Man United. They're the biggest institution in world football, apparently. So their target should be that. The money is equal to that. They spent more money than City in the last 6 years. That's just I'm glad you're not doing well.
Robbie, what are your thoughts on Ten Hag and job? Because for context, obviously they did finish third last season, won the Carabao Cup as well. But obviously,
I do think he's
thoughts?
getting. You know, some questions need to be asked now. I feel of Ten Hag. You know, I mean, I think he did well last season, but the start of this season's been horrendous. You know, I mean, a lot of his picks. You know, I mean, when you look at some of his signings, they ain't really worked out. You know, Anthony. You know, I mean, Onana's not started very well. You know, I mean. The questions are going to be asked of him soon, but it's still, I look on it and say, we're still early in the season. It's still too early yet, and they did have a lot of injuries. So I'm kind of giving him, personally, a little bit more time, but it's a big club, United, man. I mean, if
Surely
they were to lose
needs more time. Like, the chat about replacing him and things online feels just...
Well, I think you know, if they keep losing games and the Champions League one, I mean, they're at the bottom of the group.
Yeah.
I think that has to get better as well. So I do think questions, maybe not quite yet, but it's getting to that stage soon where you can start asking questions and saying, well, hold on, is he the right guy?
OK, should we move on to the next one then? Because, you know, loads of talk online. We were discussing it before as well about Bukayo Saka this week. Looks like he is going to be fit to play Manchester City, but more sort of injury problems during the week. Arsenal fans debating whether or not he should be rested a little bit more. So the next statement is true or false. Bukayo Saka needs to be rested more. False versus true. Another disagreement.
It's only a minor one because we had a great debate about the great players in the Premier League era. I think Saka is going to be one of those, by the way. Salah, Ronaldo at Man United. These got Haaland. They want to play every single minute of every single game. But there are moments where the top-level managers even give him 20 more minutes in terms of taking him off 70 minutes, 75 minutes. Against Bournemouth, I think he played a little bit too much. It's a small kind of managerial decision. I think Arteta's handled him perfectly as a player. His ceiling is exponential. I just think seeing City without Rodri, knowing that was coming up in a couple of weeks, that happened a few weeks ago, you know, with that red card, manage him slightly better, that's what I'd say.
I've had a lot of argument with even a lot of Arsenal fans this week.
It's never ended at the moment.
Yeah, because a lot of Arsenal fans would say this would be true, right? But in my opinion, I think when you've got the best player in your club, if he's fit, he plays. Now, he got a knock in a couple of those games. A knock is different to an ankle injury. It's a bit like Grealish, where he gets fouled a lot, right? He gets a lot of kick on the ankles and stuff like that. But you know what a knock's like. You can have that. You can play football, have a knock, right? And in a day or two, it's gone, you know what I mean? And you're ready to play again. And he's our best player. And to me, that Champions League game, when a lot of fans were saying rest him, I mean, listen, he came off early and we lost, right? And that, to me, Champions League, we want to be in that game. I mean, why do you go out and buy players for 100 million and that to play in the Champions League and to play in these big games? So for me, I look at it and I say a lot of the big players that, you know, around world football, Bellingham, he is not being rested at the moment, is he? And he's a similar sort of age, well, he's younger than Saka. Yeah. He's not getting rested. I never see Salah get rested. Plays in exactly the same position. He plays every single game unless he's injured. So for me, and I looked at it the other day as well, I think a lot of people were jumping to conclusions because he had a knock, he came back, he was fit. He played in the game. Mikel Arteta said he went to back heel a ball, felt a little muscular pain. They took him off straight away. And now he may be ready. I personally think he will play in the game on Sunday, so that looks like that was the right decision.
Interesting. He's played in Arsenal's last 87 Premier League games, which is a club record for successive Premier League appearances. I'd be interested to see if he does play on the weekend. Of course, next up, got to talk about Newcastle, Joe. What an amazing result that was, beating PSG 4-1. And I wasn't at the game, but the atmosphere seemed absolutely incredible as well. So we're saying, true or false, Newcastle will go further than Arsenal in the Champions League. What are we saying?
I know you'd go true.
Well, we have to be fair to Newcastle. They've won the same amount of Champions Leagues as Arsenal, 0. Obviously, not lost any European finals to their London rivals, Chelsea, in Baku and all that. So, but Newcastle's momentum is completely different to Arsenal. Arsenal are a massive football club. They've never won the European Cup. I'm not trying to wind you up. There's a weight around Arsenal. They should have won a European Cup, especially with Wenger. Newcastle, I think they've arrived in the Champions League a little bit early based on their squad. You're seeing Dan Burns scoring goals. You're seeing Murphy playing against PSG. So they're a little bit early, so there's no pressure on Newcastle this season. And when we see sides with no pressure, maybe when Monaco had a run, for example, a few years ago with their great side, they went far, they got to the semis or whatever it was. So they'll go far this season.
Listen, a fantastic win by Newcastle. I think PSG, I don't know what they were doing, disrespecting Newcastle. I mean, Newcastle scored 8 the other day against the team.
Yeah.
The formation they put out
4-2-4
was ridiculous, right? Newcastle, great performance. They've still got a very difficult group to get out of. You know what I mean? They've got AC Milan in that group as well. You know, that's a tough group, right? I fully expect Arsenal, despite the setback the other day, to get out of that group. And I do think we'll progress further because I think we've got a better squad than Newcastle. Newcastle got a great team, but a couple of injuries to a couple of players. You know, they went into that virtually, apart from, I think, Callum Wilson was out, virtually with their full team. We had injuries. So I think Arsenal will go further than Newcastle. I know he's as I said, the Champions League expert.
Shaking your head there, Buvey, and your eyes rolled.
You know? I mean, you can't belittle Newcastle having a fully fit squad.
I'm not belittling
90% fully fit squad and lost to the side 50.
And they had no Botman.
Yeah, that's true.
Player.
I'm not belittling Newcastle's performance. It was unbelievable.
You've not had a night
unbelievable
Champions League like
performance.
Newcastle have had for 20 years.
Listen, you'd be booing.
The last time
you lot would be booing
side,
it. You used to boo the Champions League anthem. Now you're the expert on the Champions League.
The last time you played a big side in the Champions League, league winners of their own side, Bayern Munich, you lost 10-2.
Listen, we were doing this long before you. Before the billions came in.
You lost 10-2, 2016.
Before the billions came in that you could even compete in the Champions League.
When's the last time you were in the Champions League?
And as I said, they may hear it's the bailiffs, we've come for the trophies.
We should have done this show on a Thursday night because you're more of a Europa League side than the Champions League side.
Well, listen, mate, you know what I mean? As I said, right, you bought your way into it, well done, right? But we were doing this competition long before you lot even arrived there.
You never won it.
Right? We didn't win it. We got to a final. You know what I mean?
Well done.
Look how long it took you lot to win it, despite the billions you spent.
Yeah. You spent loads of money as well, and you've barely got into
nowhere near. Nowhere
more
near.
than City in the last two transfer windows.
The last two transfer windows.
We have to talk about recent.
Well, you spent billions before that, so you don't need to spend that much now.
Players get older.
You don't need to spend much now. You've already, you know what I mean?
You spent 100 million quid on Declan.
And I wonder why.
Behave.
I wonder why you spent less now. Maybe there's a little bit more scrutiny on things.
All right.
Oh, OK. Just saying, got quite heated there.
Yeah, let's move on.
Thoughts of Robbie.
Yeah, let's move on.
Those thoughts. Yeah.
OK, next up, lots of chat about Liverpool this week. I know they lost to Spurs, but another excellent performance.
Liverpool look good this
down
season.
to 10 and 9 men. So the question we're going to be asking is true or false? Liverpool are Man City's strongest rivals this season.
So you're going true, you're going false.
Shock, another disagreement here.
So Buvey's gone true, you're going false. Do you think Tottenham are then? I got him in his head a little bit.
No, you know, I'm going false, but it's sort of like right, because I think both of them are going to... I said this right at the start of the season, that both Arsenal and Liverpool will challenge Man City for the title this season. And I think that's what we want. We want to have more... I think the only way to maybe topple a City is to have more than one team challenging them. So that, you know, it's not just, you know, a two-horse race with them where they can, you know... So I actually... whilst I'm saying I feel that Arsenal will be, I do think Liverpool will be challenging as well. I really do.
Buvey, as a Man City fan, obviously City, I think we all agree, favourites for the title. But you look at Liverpool as the team. If there's one team that can take that title, they're the next best in line.
I think you look at games head-to-head. I know you don't win the Premier League by having one game where you beat Man United or you beat Arsenal. You obviously have to win 10, 12 in a row to get the points to win the league title. But last season, Liverpool beat us. Last season, Arsenal couldn't beat us in 3 games. So they know how to beat us. And by the way, when City got 100 points in the Premier League, Liverpool beat us that season. They beat us in the Champions League. So Klopp knows how to beat Guardiola. If it comes down to 3 points in the Premier League title race and we've got to go to Anfield or they've got to come to the Etihad and they can beat us, they're more than capable of beating us.
That's the season when VAR helped you out, isn't it? You should like VAR.
Why are you bringing that up? You
should like VAR.
Let's do another question.
That's the season, isn't it? That's the season when he helped you lot out.
Are Arsenal strongest rivals for top 4 this season? You're in the top 4 debate with Newcastle,
So are you.
Villa, Brighton, Spurs. You drew with Spurs, couldn't even beat them. So you're in a top 4
Well, you
debate.
don't normally beat Spurs.
By the way, Liverpool have won
Right?
more Premier League
You don't
titles in the
normally
last 20
beat
years.
Spurs.
You've not won the Premier League title for 20 years.
Shouldn't even
So you can't even talk about it.
You're new to this, man.
You've not won the Premier League in
You're
20
new
years.
to
You've never won the
this.
Champions League in 100 years of history. You can't
You're
talk
new,
about
you're
these
new
big
to
trophies.
this. You're new to this. And as I said, right, you should like VAR. It helped you out in that season with the 100 points.
We need to move on. They are both factually correct. Arsenal did fail to beat Tottenham, and Man City haven't beaten Tottenham at the top. We're both right about that. Taking what
We did do the double over you last
Yeah, all right, OK, Robbie. Next up, talking about... Next up, Spurs will finish in the top 4, one of only 2 unbeaten teams in the league, along with Arsenal second in the league, 1 point off Man City. You're going true. Robbie, you're sort of sitting on the fence here with this one. What? True, wow. Arsenal fan Robbie thinks Spurs will finish in the top 4.
You know, he started really well. You've only got one thing to go for every week because you're not in the Champions League or Europa League. And no, it wasn't a dig point.
Or the Carabao.
Right?
Or the Carabao.
Or the Carabao. And I thought United would be that team in the top 4. And the way they've started, I just can't see... Even though I think they'll get better, I think they might struggle to get in the top 4. So maybe, yeah, I think there's a shout for either Tottenham or Newcastle to get in that top 4.
You agree?
Yeah, you've been electric, and I was a doubter of Ange Postecoglou just because of you never know coming from the Scottish League. With all due respect to Celtic, what he achieved there was fantastic. You've got great defenders. I think Van de Ven's been great. Vicario's been incredible in the back line. And then you've got Son. I mean, people forget how many goals he can actually get individually to fire you up the table.
It's just the problem's the injuries, though. If they get a few injuries to
Spurs have got a few mounted injuries.
Yeah, if like say Son and Maddison's out for a couple of 6 weeks or something, then they have a problem.
We have seen let's say Leicester City when they won the Premier League, they were able to keep Jamie Vardy fit for 35, 36 games a season.
They can play a maximum of 37 games left this season, Spurs. A maximum in all competitions.
It's amazing. If Maddison stays fit, you're top 4 guaranteed. Put my house on it.
You'll put your house on it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I rent. I live in London.
Brilliant. There we go.
We've got time for one more?
Have we?
Very quickly, because I want to do James Ward-Prowse.
Quick with these. You've got to be
30
quick with this
seconds here. True or false? James Ward-Prowse should be in the England squad. We've got to give him a shout out.
There we go.
We have to give him a shout out, James Ward-Prowse. Very quickly.
Great player. I mean, set piece delivery, best in the league. Should be in it.
Just quickly.
He needs to be on the plane to Euro 2024, not starting from either.